In part 2 of my Coding the Bracken from Lethal Company series, we are going to cover the Bracken's remaining states: interested, shy, and aggressive. You'll learn how to isolate code based on what state the Bracken is in, and how to switch between these states to create a seamless cycle of state switching that resembles the iconic behavior of the Bracken itself. In the States folder, create a new file called brackeninterestedstate.cs. The interested state occurs when a player is nearby, and when in this state, the Bracken will look at a player, stare him down, and move in a smaller radius. If the player stares back at the Bracken for just the right amount of time while in this state, the Bracken will get scared and run away by entering the shy state. But if the player stares for too long, the Bracken will chase him and enter the aggressive state. This is the second of the 4 Bracken states, so we will inherit Bracken FSM state. The first 3 fields we've seen already, but we're going to add a few new ones too. Look time is used to track how long a player is staring at the Bracken. Is being looked at is a Boolean flag that is set when any player is looking at the Bracken. Time threshold is the stare threshold that determines if the Bracken will enter the shy state or the aggressive state. And current target is the transform of the player the Bracken is currently interested in. Add the base constructor, setting the ID to Bracken FSM state type.interested. Override enter, set enable rotation to false, set the move speed, set the random destination, and once again bind the onTarget reached event to a private function, the same as in the patrolling class. Next, let's choose the player the Bracken will be interested in. We'll pick a random player from a new function called choose_random_player as target. It returns a player controller and just calls the getPlayersWithRadius function from our player detector script, returning a random player from the list. If the return value is not null, set the current target field to it. Override the update function. First, we'll add logic to stare at the current target. Next, grab a list of all players nearby. Check if any of those players are looking at the Bracken. If somebody is looking, and this is the first time, we reset the look time to 0. So set the flag and start incrementing the look time. Add comments for when a player is looking too long at the Bracken. We'll come back to it. Else, if nobody's looking at the Bracken and somebody previously was, then determine how long they stared and change the Bracken state to either shy or aggressive. And if no players are nearby, we'll change the state back to patrolling. Create a private function called isStaringTooLong. It accepts a float and returns a bool. If the pass parameter is between 0 and the time threshold, return false. Else, if it's over the time threshold, return true. Override the exit function, remove the onTarget reached event binding, and reset all the fields. Finally, head back over to Bracken.cs and add a new instance of Bracken interested state to the state machine. And hit play.
What the dog doing?
I missed something. Under the Bracken AI path component, just set the gravity to none. Now try again. Notice how the Bracken immediately enters the interested state because I'm nearby.
No, I'm just interested in you.
In the states folder, create a new file called brackenshyState.cs. This class also inherits from Bracken FSM state, so let's set up the fields. Radius is again the movement radius, and move speed is the move speed of the Bracken. Add the constructor and set the ID to Bracken FSM state type.shy. Override the enter function, set enable rotation to true, set the move speed, and call a function called setFurthestDestination passing the radius. We'll create this function now in Bracken Path Controller. In that file, add a private function called getFurthestPoint in opposite direction. This function just returns a vector 3 opposite of the given origin direction at the given distance. Then create a new public function called setFurthestDestination with an int as a parameter. When this function is invoked, the Bracken will run towards the complete opposite direction it is facing. Head back to Bracken shy state, add the onTarget reached event binding, and add the associated binding function onTarget reached. When this function is invoked, let's change the Bracken state to patrolling. Override the exit function and remove the onTarget reached event binding. Now in Bracken.cs, add a new instance of the Bracken shy state class. We need a way to switch to this shy state, so in Bracken interested state, let's change the state to shy when the player stares at the Bracken using the timer condition we wrote earlier. Now hit play. Stare at the Bracken for less than 2 seconds, then look away. He gets shy and runs away. And once he reaches the end of his path, he starts patrolling. In the States folder, create a new file called brackenaggressivestate.cs. This is the final state the Bracken can be in, so we'll once again inherit from Bracken FSM state. Again, the fields will look familiar to you. Move speed is the Bracken's move speed. Radius is the radius used to detect players nearby, and current target is the transform of the player that the Bracken is aggressive towards. Create the base constructor, setting the ID to Bracken FSM state type.aggressive. Override the enter function, set enable rotation to true, set the move speed, and add the on target reached event binding. In the associated binding function on target reached, let's set the destination of the Bracken to the current target if it's not null. This causes the Bracken to chase the target relentlessly. Next, let's choose a random player to be our current target. Once again, use the player detector script to fetch all players within the radius. If at least one player is nearby, choose a random player from that list and set the current target field to its transform. But if no players are nearby, change the Bracken state to shy. Override the update function and add similar logic to check if any players are nearby. If none are found, change the Bracken state to shy. Now override the exit function, remove the on-target reached event binding, and set the current target field to null. We need a way to change to the aggressive state, so head back over to Bracken interested state and set the current state to aggressive when the player is staring too long. Finally, back in bracken.cs, add a new instance of Bracken aggressive state to the Bracken FSM instance. And hit play. When I stare at the Bracken for more than 2 seconds, he enters the aggressive state and begins chasing me.
I'm very angry.
At this point, you could add custom logic to destroy the player instance if he touches you, but in my case, the Bracken just pushes me off the edge. And that's it. You just programmed the baseline behavior of the Bracken from Lethal Company. In this short video series, we went over all 4 of his different states: patrolling, interested, shy, and aggressive. And we also covered how to switch between these states. I hope this tutorial convinced you to continue to use finite state machines when developing, and hopefully you gain a better understanding on why writing good code is important, even if it takes a bit longer. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or any video suggestions that you want to see next. Also, like and subscribe if you want to. Well, that's it for today. See ya!